Hey guys, this is Steliefter with Closeout. I'm currently in New York City, the hustling epicenter of the universe. And before I go out to get myself some breakfast and much needed coffee, I wanted to answer an email that Vivek sent me, and I thought that you guys might find useful as well. The email describes a high pressure sales situation where Vivek had to sell to a massive car company and had just one shot for a very large presentation. And he describes a number of things that went totally wrong in that presentation and asked me, how do you deal with this? How do you deal when your buyer is basically really challenging you? And one of the challenges that I want to describe in this video today is the challenge that his buyer, the prospects that were in the meeting room that he met up with, that he had a chance to present to, told him early on when he started trying to ask some questions and really get to qualify them and understand them a lot better. They stopped him and said, listen, Vivek, you are here to present to us. We would like to not have to answer any questions. Why don't you just go ahead, make your presentations. We will ask the question, and then when you leave, we can make the determination if we want to move forward with this or not. How do you deal with that, right? How do you deal with a buyer that tells you, stop, don't ask me any questions. I don't want to give you any information. I just want to sit back, listen to you pitch, and then you can leave the room and we will make a decision if we're interested in this or not. I think that's a pretty good question. And I actually want to ask the audience today, how would you react if somebody tells you, hey, you can't ask me any questions, you just make your presentation and pitch. You asked me to get a meeting, so you present now, and then please leave, and I'll make my decision on my own. What would you do? I'll give you two choices. Number one, you accept it, and you say, you know what? This is a massive company. This is the way they buy. I'm not going to be able to change that. I'm not going to be able to challenge these people and still maintain some level of rapport, some level of goodwill. So I'll have to have the flexibility to just present, cross my fingers, and hope that it worked. That's pretty much what everybody else will do after me and everybody else did before me. So I'll just do the same thing and hope that they like my presentation. That's option number one. Option number two is you challenge them on that. And you actually tell them that you need to ask them some questions, and you try to pitch them on the idea of why it's going to benefit them as well as you if you both take a moment to actually explore each other and get to know each other better versus just presenting blindly. Which of these two options do you think is the better one? Should you just accept whatever the challenge was to you, or should you challenge them back and actually tell them that the way that you want to sell to them is different than the way they typically are used to buying? I'm going to tell you which one I would go with. I would definitely go with option number two. Here's the secret to wording and how to actually present this. Because, you have to be careful. You can't just sit there arrogantly and be like, no. That's not how I sell. I don't care how you like to buy, but this is how I like to sell. So I'm going to ask you some questions if you like it or not, right? That may or may not work well depending on who you're talking to. What you want to do is you want to actually, first and foremost, you always want to agree, right? Be agreeable. Go, oh, that makes perfect sense. But then you want to actually make a pitch and give it a shot to why they would want to actually alter the typical buying process just a little bit in order to make a better buying decision, in order to improve the process for both ends. Here's what I would tell these people. Somebody told me, hey, you're not allowed to ask any question. I just want you to present and I'm going to make my choice afterwards, yes or no. Here's what I would say. I would say, that makes perfect sense. In typical vendor and buyer relationships, I think that's a really good process and it's probably served you really, really well. We like to be more than just a vendor. We actually want to be a partner. In order to be a partner, it's really important for us to actually truly understand what their needs are of our buyers, of our partners, the people that are using our software, in order to be able to make good recommendations, in order to be able to focus on what's really essentially important versus not. So what I would suggest is we just take 5 minutes to explore, ask just a few questions, explore further how our software, how our product would actually relate to your initiatives and your needs to make the next 45 minutes that much more productive, or to save both of us the rest of the 45 minutes, because in 5 minutes we might discover that we're not quite the right fit. So there's no need for me to bore you and waste your time with a long presentation if we can discover really quickly that it really isn't the right fit. Does it sound fair enough? I have 3 questions that are really crucial that will really influence the way that I present the product. I think it's going to make a big difference. Most importantly, and then I would just jump in and ask the first question. Most importantly, when you guys look at X, Y, and Z, what's the most crucial factor that makes you go one way or another? Or, currently I see that your company has these initiatives. Which one is a priority to you, and how exactly, are you going to decide how to utilize the software and how to deploy it? And you could just go ahead, I would just go ahead and ask the first question, implying that I got agreement. Now, it's a little bit of a risky strategy, and they might still not agree. They might stop me and be like, you know what, we respect that, but we really would not want to share any information with you. Can you just go ahead and make a presentation? And now at this moment, you have to make a decision. Do you want to sell on their terms or not? I typically don't like to work with a partner that looks at me as a commodity and goes, you know what, I don't want to know anything about you. I don't want to tell you anything. I want to have zero relationship. Just give me the facts. Sit over there in this corner, present in this exact way. That doesn't feel great, and I don't give a fuck how big the customer is. Honestly, I just think to myself, fuck you, right? I want partners. I want a company that I can have a healthy relationship with, where information flows in both ways. And if the relationship starts off in a really difficult manner, and a manner where I have zero control over the process and it's all in their head and I'm just a supplier and a commodity, I don't feel comfortable with that. So I would actually challenge them to the point where the deal might not go down well. And to me, that would mean that they're not really a qualified buyer. Now, that's a luxury to say. And, if you have a business that's going well and if you're doing well in life, you might have the luxury to say no to a customer like that. Many people would feel like they don't have the luxury to say no and don't want to say no. And I'm not going to challenge you guys in this video, maybe in another one. But if you feel like you don't have that option, and that option is not realistic to you, then you can just make the determination to play by their rules. If you play by their rules, I just have one tip for you. Because you're flying blind, I would make the flight as short as humanly possible, right? I would not go, most people will go, if they fly blind, they will think, let me be as broad as humanly possible to cover as much surface space as possible, so that, in the 60 minutes of me talking nonstop, I definitely will have said something that they liked. I would go the exact opposite direction, because I think that if you talk for 60 minutes and you include everything you could ever think of, you're going to overflow them with information, you're going to bore them, they're not going to really pick up on the things you like, but they're going to find the things they disliked and pick up and zero in on those things. So what I would do is I would actually keep the presentation really short, and then let them drive the conversation by asking follow-up questions. And with those follow-up questions, you can always jump in and ask a response question to clarify the follow-up question, and kind of like let them guide you in which direction the presentation should really go. So I would just make a 5-minute presentation and go, really broadly, here's what we do. We do A, B, and C. Here's how we deliver our services. Here's why technology is incredible. Here's how we sit in the, complete market. And let me share just one story with you of a company that's comparable to yours that used us with great success. Make a 10-minute, 50-minute presentation, and then go, at this point, I think it's a good moment to actually have you guys ask some questions, make sure that I answer and address everything that's important to you. And then let them ask some questions, say, well, how exactly does the technology work in this scenario? Well, how exactly do you price it in this and this thing? And let them ask their questions. And when they ask their questions, you can, follow up to clarify some of them and go, you know what, that's an interesting question. Let me make sure that I understand it. Is this important to you because of X or because of Y? Do you look at it more from a cost perspective, or are you more interested in it from a value perspective? Or are you more interested in the time it's going to take to actually deploy this successfully in the organization? Or are you more interested in, and you can just guide them, not guide them, but you can actually basically, by having them asking all the questions, get a real sense for the organization and sneak in maybe 1 or 2 questions in between a few things and guide and disguise it as clarifying questions, right? So take that for what it is. I think that when people want to buy from you and they don't want to give you any information, I think you ought to challenge them at least once by telling them, listen, we're interested in partnerships, not just vendor-buyer relationship. We really want to understand if this even is a good fit or not, because if it isn't, and we can find that out in 5 minutes, I want to save you 60 minutes of your time and my time. And once I truly understand you, I can tell you why and how to use our product in the most successful way. I don't want to rob you and myself and us of that opportunity. So let's forget about vendor-buyer relationships and let's enter a true partnership, because that's the only thing we're really interested in. And then go ahead and ask your question. If that works, awesome. If it doesn't work, you have a choice. You can re-challenge them on it and say, honestly, all I need is 4 questions. It's going to be making a world of a difference what kind of information I provide you. I'm going to provide you more relevant, more important information. It's going to make the whole presentation dramatically better for you guys. And if they decline, you can either say, you know what, this is not the way that I am comfortable entering into a partnership. I think I'm going to decline moving forward with the presentation just to save you guys and us time, but I wish you luck with the process. It's a bit harsh, but that's what I would do after a second or third try. For everybody else, if you don't want to do that, you can just go ahead and make your presentation, just shorten it. If it was a 60-minute presentation, push it down to 5 to 10 minutes. Give as little information as possible, stay at very high level. Maybe tell a story of something comparable, a company, a case study that relates to them, and then let them lead the rest of the presentation through asking questions. That's going to make a dramatically increased chance of you actually pitching the right and relevant information. All right, with that being said, I'm going to go out now, grab some coffee and some breakfast to wish you guys a beautiful day. For all of you that are hustling every single day, go out there and get them.